Hello. Okay, so this is going to be 5 to day 2 because that other one got long. What we're going to be doing today is analyzing graphs. We're looking for kind of 4 things. We're going to be looking for what's called a relative maximum, relative minimum, and then intervals of increasing and decreasing. So let's talk about what those are. So a relative max, we'll call it, is like a peak. It's like a high point in the graph. It doesn't have to be the highest point in the whole entire graph. It just has to be like a peak compared to a valley. And that is just going to be coordinates. So that's just written as a point. So it's going to be written as an XY point. Okay, my puppy Dolly is now pushing my Apple Pen everywhere. Now she's going to take a really loud drink. So relative min is going to be what I would call a valley, like a low point. It comes down and goes back up again. And that is also going to be written as an XY point. So then after you kind of determine those, like looking at this graph, I can say, oh, this is going to be a relative max. It's a high point. This is going to be a relative min, meaning a low point or a valley. But the graph does, assuming these are arrows, go higher and lower. It's just those are like peaks and valleys within the graph. Then this part is easy for you to see and identify, but it kind of gets difficult for people to write. What we're going to be looking at is areas where the graph is increasing. So from left to right, it literally means going up. You're always reading from left to, that's going to be messy, from left to right. So if you think about like riding along the graph on your bike, you're just deciding, am I going uphill or downhill? So you're going from left to right, and it's going to be going up, increasing. And then, not surprisingly, decreasing is the opposite. Decreasing is coming down from left to right. So, you'd be riding your bike downhill. So in my particular picture, let's do, like, this is what confuses people. Here's an arrow going up, correct. But you're reading it from left to right. So if you're here and you're riding your bike, you're actually decreasing. And the reason we kind of pointed out those relative max and mins is those are the places where it switches. Like from left to right here, this is an area of decrease, but then it hits that minimum and then it starts to go up. So now I have an area of increase. From here, you can see I'm going uphill until I hit the relative max. So this middle part is going up, increasing. And then after it hits that maximum, then it starts to come back down. Like on a roller coaster, you're increasing or decreasing, going up or down. And so from left to right, these are decreasing zones. And then if you think about, like, this is where that minimum is, and this is where that maximum is, that splits it into the places where it's increasing and decreasing. So if I were going to say, okay, from here on down, and then again over here, it's decreasing. And then in between there, from here to here, it is going to be increasing. So how do we write our answers to all of that? So the relative max and min, these are just going to be points. So this relative max, of course, I've written all over it now. So let me see if I can even figure it out. Here's the origin. So that's over 2 up to 4. You can see the scale right here. So it looks like it's over 2 up 4. So my relative max is located at 2, 4. These are just points, so this should be relatively easy for you. And then this min, I can see I go back here. Oh, this one's counted by 2s as well. That's really confusing for the notes. Sorry about that. I should have checked that out ahead of time. So if that's 2, I'm only at 1. So see what I'm talking about? Like this graph paper is written kind of funny, so but not like haha funny. So I'm halfway to 1 at that place. So that's actually going to be at 1 and then up 4. So looking at the minimum, I have to look at that carefully too, because it's located right here. It's not really right at -2. That's why I'm hesitating. See that? It's over to the right a little bit, but we're calling it -2 because we're not dealing with the decimal right away. So if that's at -2 and then down 2, 4, 6, 8, we're going to call that -2, -8. It is kind of tricky to see the graphs. They don't line up perfectly, it looks like. So when you go to write areas of increasing and decreasing, and here's where people get confused, you're only going to use X values. So you're going to use those X values from your max and min, because those are the places where it switches. So as I go to read this graph, this part from left to right, like we said, was decreasing until it gets to here. So since we've decided that that is at -2, I'm doing decreasing right now because it's coming down from left to right. My X's, you always use X's, would be less than -2. That's one of the places that it is decreasing, because this region over here is going to be X's that are less than -2, because once we hit -2, it starts going up. Let's go over and find the other place that it's decreasing. Well, from here on over, it's going down. And so there, X is greater than whatever this X was, and that X was 1. So in these two regions where X is less than -2, and again where X is greater than 1, it's decreasing. It's increasing in between my relative min and max. And when you have an in between, you're going to have your X in between. Alligator mouths always opening to the right. And the X on the left is going to be the -2 from here. And then it goes up until it hits the max, which has an X of 1. So you never, ever, ever use these Y values in describing your max and mins, or excuse me, increasing and decreasing. So that is definitely a tricky part. I'm going to go to the homework packet. And since that's the only example, I'm going to go ahead and scoot to the worksheet and do at least, I'll just do the first one of those. One thing that you want to be able to still do is from the earlier part of the lesson, because your worksheet's going to have this. Notice how the right end and the left end are both going down on this. And since they're both doing the same thing, think about what that would mean as your degree. And you get same ends when your degree is an even number. And then also looking at the right end going down, that would tell me that my leading coefficient is negative. That's what makes the right end go down. So I know on the worksheet that I'm going to use in my class, it's going to ask you those two questions also. Okay, so let's tackle the new stuff though. Relative max, that's actually here and here because these are both peaks. So this one's located at -6 and then up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this one over to the right is located at 1, 2, 3, 4, up 1, 2, 3. Whoa. So those are the two places that I have maximums because they are peaks, high points. Then a place that I have a minimum, a low point, is right here. And that appears to be at -2, -2. Okay, now when I go to do increasing and decreasing, I'm going to be using these three numbers to describe what's happening. Keeping in mind that it will switch at these max and mins. So from in there, you'll have something happening. It will switch here and it will switch here. So this area from left to right, the graph is going up. So this is increasing. And then in this next area, it's coming down. So from here to here, it's decreasing. Then from here to here, it's going back up. So in this region, it's increasing. And then from that maximum on out, it's going down. So from here on out, it's decreasing. So we have 2 areas of increase and 2 intervals of decrease. We're only going to be using these x coordinates to describe those areas. So let's look at this area over on the left. This area, first of all, it goes forever to the left, but it has to stay less than the x part of that max because it's only to the left of this number, which is a -6. So I would describe that area as x less than -6. So meaning from here at -6 over to the left, this is increasing from left to right. It is also increasing here in this region. How would I describe that region? Only using my x coordinates, I would say, well, from here, which is at -2, and I'm doing an in between until over here, which appears to be at 4. So that's between, you're saying between -2 and 4, it's also increasing. Now my regions of decrease are going to be in those other spots. So it's decreasing from here until here when I hit that low point, and then it's also decreasing from the maximum until forever. So how do I describe that? I'm only using x's. So this part from here to here is going to be from -6 to, I can't even read, I've written so many things over it, -2. So it's in between -6 and -2. And then the other part starts here at 4 and then just goes on forever. From there on out, it looks like it's decreasing. And so I would write x's greater than 4. I'm not using or equal to because it's not really increasing or decreasing at those peaks. It's just changing directions. And so these are the things you want to be able to do. Say, oh, that degree must be even because the ends are doing the same thing. The leading coefficient must be negative because the right end's going down. And then be able to list the max and mins. Those will be listed as x, y points. And then increasing and decreasing, these are going to be what we call intervals, like from here to here. But the key is to use the x values only. All right, you're going to be tackling the rest of these and then potentially a different worksheet as well if your teacher's having you do more. So good luck. Bye.